9 top scientists got together over 150 years ago. They were all the richest families in England, Europe, and Germany. And they all wrote public books and laughed that you'd never read scientific journals, even back then. And they have incrementally done exactly what they say they do. Mr. Gatto, you know more than I do even about this. I'm always amazed that you know even the next step, and I go look at it and you're accurate. Then I'm sure you learned in your writings there are a bunch of eugenicists and want to have a world government to force population reductions. I'm sure in your research you ran into that over and over again too, right?
Over and over again, because as I said when I alluded to Darwin's book, The Descent of Man, even these power-hungry men, and they're largely male, even these power-hungry men have to have some sort of a justification for what they're doing. So they tried religious justifications, and they tried philosophical justifications, they tried psychological justifications, but finally where they met bedrock they could stand on was biological inferiority. Obviously, sensible people would realize that you can't cure that. There isn't any way to cure that, and therefore you have to protect yourself, the good breeding stock, away from it. This is where the eugenicists come in. They really land in the western part of the United States. They're generated out of the eastern United States, but they land out at Stanford University just at the turn of the 20th century, and they begin teaching how to take control of evolution by controlling, as an animal or plant breeder would control, by controlling genetics. And there are quite a few books. It's simply that if you're not aware they exist, you can't do what you've been advocating.
By the way, I mean, I told you this last time you were on briefly. My dad was top of his class, and they took like the 125 smartest high school seniors. I think he was actually a junior then, and they sent him to the University of Texas, and the head of the botany department was running these months of intensive testing, and they took the top 6 kids, and my dad was one of them, and said, well, there's a secret world government. We're going to have to get rid of most people. You are, the genetic cream, and we're going to need you to continue to go through schooling and prepare yourselves for this. And my dad's like, I'm out of here. And he never even told me that till a few months ago. The point is, this is going, and you talked about plant breeders. He was the head of UT Botany, was the head guy. He was also a German.
Well, you brought that up at the end of our time together, and that's just fine. That idea you're talking about was cooked up most succinctly and powerfully by 2 sociologists right at the beginning of the 20th century, and they said you're not going to be able to pull this project off unless you can drain the most obvious mental talent out of the lower orders. And you do that by paying them off.
And by the way, they point blank told a junior in high school this.
Well, sure, you have to. This is, I'll just put the dog on and use the Latin term. This is the propaidutic function, which basically means if you get a good project underway, how are you going to transmit it to the next generation unless you train people directly in what's going on? You don't have to train many. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. But somebody has to know what's going on so that they can continue it.
Tell you what, stay there. Stay there, because I'm going to do 5 more minutes and George Humphrey's coming in.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com.
Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
My good friend George Humphrey is going to be in studio with us in 5 minutes. After this quick segment, he's an economist, former city council member, author, documentary filmmaker, and a leading figure in the fight for free humanity against the New World Order crime syndicate and their wicked engineers and scientists. That's coming up in the next segment, again, as we attempt to alert the people with our limited capacity, though the numbers are growing, to the grave threat we're all under with the scientific dictatorship now entering its foretold extermination phase. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing the best we can. John Taylor Gatto, of course, was a big advertising man in New York. He then got involved part-time in education, became a teacher for 30 years in New York because of his love of that, and several times was Teacher of the Year. He thought education was broken. He then discovered that it was all by design. We've got about 3 minutes left with you, sir. Finish up any other key points you want to make about the scientific dictatorship, some of the source documents for folks to check, like your free book on your website, and just how we fight this. I mean, I believe it's just if someone becomes aware the innate human mind is still there, once they discover they're in a box, they can then figure out how to get out of it.
That's the Alice in Wonderland principle. Once you discover that all of this menacing apparatus, they're just a pile of cards. Once you understand what's going on, you withdraw your own cooperation without putting a billboard up. You withdraw your children. You talk to your neighbors. And as you said an hour ago at the beginning of the show, as you spread this around, the ripples are like a stone being thrown in water. What's underway right now are the last stages of globalizing this thing and creating a virtual world government in every nation that matters. Most of the nations of the world, of course, don't matter, but in the ones that matter, there is an international government already. It's a shadow government. So that all of the attempts to keep this thing stable while replacing American jobs with jobs from wherever, I won't name a particular country, the idea is to destroy the idea of nationality, which is one of the grounds of meaning that we all have, just as they have worked for a century to destroy the sanctity of the family, because that's a tough nut to crack. But nationality is under heavy siege right now and is in a state of advanced collapse in most places. And it's taught in universities as a good thing. We'll now hand management over to the best people drawn from the world's population. At that point, we are all in jail, and I don't know what key would open that lock. Read Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time. It is an immortal work of the 20th century. Quigley was an internationally famous scholar. He was Bill Clinton's personal tutor at Georgetown University, and he wrote extensively, chapter and verse on this. The publisher destroyed the plates of the book, but thanks to the efforts of a number of really courageous people, the book was illegally kept in print on the fringes. And now I understand, although I'd have to see it for myself, that the publisher has brought it back in.
John Taylor Gatto, we're out of time. The website is John Taylor Gatto, ladies and gentlemen, JohnTaylorGatto.com. On there you can find a link to download his life's work, this incredible book. Can we get you up for a part 3 next week?
You can. Can your producer give my wife a call? Because I move around a lot, but she'll set up. I don't actually have close control over my schedule.
I understand. Alex Jones.